All right, we're back here on the Chase Thomas podcast, where I am now joined by Maryville's own. I practiced saying Maryville so many times, Coach Derek Hunt, because man, I have a lot of family from Knoxville. I'm obviously a UT grad student, and Maryville is one of those where people will look at you funny if you pronounce it incorrectly. And I'm from Atlanta, and it's a different thing for me. But did I get it right? Is it Maryville? Is it like, am I doing it correctly? Am I enunciating it properly?
I think you're close, if not right on it. I mean, it's
Okay.
Maryville,
Mm-hmm.
Mara, V-L, Maryville. So, yeah, you're pretty close, and you're right. You can tell who's from Maryville and who's not when they're from Maryville when they pronounce it. So it's kind of funny.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for doing this, man. How's spring ball going? I'm sure you're back in the thick of things. Are the kids excited about these temps? Rocking it up real quick. Like, we were in winter, it feels like 2 weeks ago, and now it's just blazing here.
I know. It's been crazy. We've kind of skipped spring, and I hate that because spring's pretty nice here. But yeah, right back into spring practice, and we're right at the end of it. So, but it's been good. We're missing our track and baseball kids as usual, just like everybody else is. And so our numbers are a little smaller, but still really strong. And it's been really good to get out there and see kind of what we're going to look like.
What do you really look for in spring ball? I know a lot of coaches look for different things, and there's only so much you can pull in the spring. But what's the main thing that you're looking for out of your kids in the spring?
You want to give experience to those who didn't get to have it last year. So we lost a really good senior class, Jason, and they, not just good football players, but high character kids, great leadership, stuff like that. And so we got to replace a lot more than just, football talent. And so we got a lot to work on, but for spring at Maryville, we just want to give experience and reps to those kids that don't get that big time experience and reps that we're going to be counting on. And the great thing about spring practice is you always find those guys that are going to help you that maybe weren't on that list, like, the top of your list. There's guys that come out of nowhere. So anyway, that's what's fun about it. We're looking forward to that.
Is there something about last season that you're still thinking about? It's May 12th when we're taping this. Is it the Oakland game? And I'll ask you about that in a little bit, but is there something that you're still thinking about from last year, something the way that you practice and you're like, I want to do this differently in the spring? Is there something that you learned about last year that you were like, okay, this is still something I got to keep in mind this spring?
Yeah, that's a good question. Not necessarily anything specifically, but there is always stuff that as we review last season, or as I personally review it, we're going to tweak. We're always tweaking how we practice. That's one of my favorite things to do, is try to find out how we can be more efficient with our time. And then also, offensively, that's the side of the ball that I spend my time with. So we're always trying to tweak offensive schemes, formations, plays to fit our personnel. So you study kind of who you're going to be this year, who our best players are, things like that. And you have to learn a lot about yourself in spring. And then you're always trying to tweak and adjust to fit your offense, to fit your kids.
Are you harder on quarterbacks than any other position just based on your background?
Yeah, without question. I think that's my passion. I told a lot of people I love being the head coach at Maryville, but I don't like it more than coordinating an offense. And I love coordinating, but I don't like it more than coaching quarterbacks. Like that's my passion. Obviously, I got to play for one of the greatest of all time, in high school football, and a phenomenal quarterback coach in his own right, and I learned a lot from Coach Quarles, and so that's my passion. That's what I love, and got to do a lot of that as I was a kid, even working with younger quarterbacks or in high school. I got to do that, and so I've always loved it.
Are you going to be able to have some visits for playing or practicing on campus at ETSU, or how is that relationship like now that he's gone?
Yeah, well, so ever since Coach Quarles has left, he's done a great job of reaching back out and checking me, and that means a whole lot to me. We talk, probably once a week or once every other week, even still. Like I said, he was a father figure for me in a lot of ways, and getting to play for him and then coach under him was so special. I realized how fortunate that I was to get to do that. from a coaching perspective, I was born on third base, and I'm not afraid to say that, so I got to coach and play for one of the best. So, but he means a lot to me. We still keep in touch, and I tried to get up there for spring practice, and I wasn't able to, but there's no question that I'll be there. And when he was at Furman, we would go down once or twice every year, sometimes bring our whole staff, and so that's always been special.
Did you, following a legend like that, did you hesitate a little bit before being like, okay, I can do this, I can follow Coach? Was that part of the conversations that you had with Coach Quarles, and just maybe kind of like his faith in you kind of like calmed some fears about replacing someone? Because Maryville football is just such a big deal for folks who are familiar with East Tennessee high school football. It's just that it's a big deal, and it's a big role, and it's a tough thing. Nobody wants to follow Nick Saban at Alabama. Nobody wants to follow, at this point, Kirby at Georgia. But what was that like, and was that something that you had to really spend a lot of time thinking about and just talking with your family and people in your circle?
Yeah, so the answer is yes. There was definitely, who would ever want to coach after Coach Quarles, and to be quite honest with you, Chase, I was completely happy being an assistant coach, Coach Quarles, for my career. I thought maybe there might be a chance a long time from now when I was, because when he left, it was 2016, December 2016. I was 26 years old.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, maybe one day way down the road, I'll be the head coach at Maryville or somewhere else. But it wasn't like something that I was actively pursuing at the time when he left. So when it happened really fast. It definitely crossed my mind. Is this something I really want to do? Because no matter what, you're going to be compared to one of the best high school football coaches in the United States for your whole career. But obviously, I got to spend a lot of time with him. He had actually just had hip surgery when all this went down, and so I remember going over to his house, and we had some great talks. And looking back, like, he had done so many things along the way while I was an assistant to, I don't want to say groom me, but he had done so much for me to prepare me for this. And it starts with our coaching staff. We've got a phenomenal coaching staff, and everybody on staff stayed with me when he left to go to Furman. So that was really special, super for me, and that made a huge impact on our success early on, right after he left. But yeah, there was definitely some hesitation, but I just knew that I had to. If you have the chance to be the head coach at Maryville High School, you've got to take that opportunity. And so I was excited for it, and I knew that I could do it because of the help that I had and the kids that we had, the support of our community and school system, but also because I had been prepared by one of the best to ever do it.
Do you remember what you were thinking when you were running out for that first game as the permanent head coach? Do you remember what you were thinking?
I don't remember what I was thinking, but I remember that night. I remember being nervous and excited all at the same time, just all the butterflies and everything. And I remember not calling my best game. That was the first game I'd ever called myself in a varsity game, but we won. We were down, I think, 21 to Catholic, and came back and won 49-42. The phenomenal. I'll never forget that. That was, winning that first game against a really good opponent was super fun, and that's something I'll never forget.
That's cool. I think that was before Corey Mops took that job, right? He came in after. Okay. He's actually a Lanier guy, original Georgia guy, but he's been on this podcast, I think a couple of years ago now. But that's interesting. What do you remember? Like, what has changed in your play calling? Like, so, because you like you said, you were very comfortable just being an assistant and calling games, and that's like your bread and butter. You love that, and calling an offense and running an offense. Has your perspective on calling an offense changed since taking over the head coaching job? Like, do you see the offense a little bit differently? Have you noticed that just certain things have changed about that?
Yeah, for sure. And that's one thing that, Coach Quarles and I talked a lot about, during that transition time, was you've got to make it your own. So I couldn't just be Coach Quarles or try everything he was from an offensive perspective, just because it wasn't going to work. I've got to be myself. And, there were certainly some things that I wanted to try and see if it worked. And I learned some hard lessons that way, but,
what was one of them?
Trying too much early on, I think, but that's one thing that I learned from Coach Quarles. He did such a good job at trying to stay ahead of the curve. So each year, we're not like wholesale changing our entire offense, but we were always adding new wrinkles. And so we've not stopped that. We've not stopped that at Maryville. I mean, if you watch us from year to year, anybody who really knows football, if you studied every game that you could see the differences every year in our offense. And a lot of it has to do with who our personnel is, who our best players, who needs to get the football. But the other part is football changes too. So people learn and try and do new things that are a lot smarter than me. And so you get and you steal it and you conform it to who you are and make it your own. And so a lot of what we do now, somebody else was doing and has been really good at, and we've just conformed and made it to who we are.
How often are you getting guys under center? Like, if you had to guess, all your quarterbacks, could they run the I for 4 quarters in a football game this fall? Could they do it?
No, not for 4 quarters. That they can do it. Every one of our guys can do it because short yard. We have some heavy sets, But Chase, when I was playing for Coach Quarles at Maryville, 80% of the time we were
under center.
Yeah, we were under center. It was almost like that's kind of when things started to change. My junior and senior year is when we started going a lot of shotgun, and so my senior year we were probably more in shotgun than under center. But when I started playing, everything began under center.
Do you miss that? Do you miss that at all?
No, I don't miss being under center. I miss playing for Coach Quarles. But
is it harder? Is it harder to be a quarterback under center versus from the gun?
I wouldn't say harder. No, there's definitely mechanics, different technique. I mean, we don't spend a lot of time teaching a guy how to take a snap, although we do it now. But we don't spend, used to, you'd get out there before practice every day and take 10, 15 snaps under center before you did anything else. And that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
No, we don't do that anymore. So we spend a little bit of time practicing that, but you do it as you go throughout the week. But yeah, no, there are some pros. There is no doubt about it. Even though you look at college football, almost everybody's in shotgun a lot more. There's still teams out there who are under center, and especially in the professional leagues, there's still a lot out there that go under center, and there's a lot of benefits in pros to being under center. As far as high school goes, and what we want to do, it's just easier and more. I think you can limit what you do on offense and still be really good just being in shotgun. So.
What's the biggest lesson being the head coach at Maryville has taught you thus far?
I think I've learned to be vulnerable, to rely on those guys around me, as on my coaching staff. When I was 26, first year as a head coach at Maryville High School, in my opinion, the best football program in the state, the last 20, 30 years. I wanted to do everything myself, and I knew I couldn't do that, but at the same time, I still tried to have and everything. I've learned to be vulnerable and open up to those guys. And we have such a tight knit group on this coach, and they are phenomenal. Some former head coaches, they're super smart guys. Some of the newer guys that we've got, again, smarter than me, and that's the way it needs to be. So, some great football coaches, but I've learned my first 5 years that, delegation is key, and, leaders create more leaders. The best ones do. They arm their subordinates with intent to make a difference, step out of the way. They give them to go do what they do. And so it's important to set the expectations and to kind of get the boat going in the right direction, and then to be very clear on how we want to accomplish some things. But then at some point, you've got to get out of the way and let them do it. And fortunately, I've got great help, and those guys do such a great job.
Do you see yourself getting more involved with the defense in the coming years? Do you want to just really to kind of evolve as a head coach and to just just out of curiosity, really? Like you said, you want to trust these guys and they have a job, and you want to empower the defensive folks. But is that something that you still want to ingratiate yourself more in and just really become more involved in what's going on defense?
No, I don't. I don't. Learning about defense from an offensive perspective.
Mm-hmm.
How do you attack it? What's tough? And our defensive coaches do a great job of saying, hey, you need to keep doing this because it's hard for us.
Okay.
But, and in high school is different. There are some high school football coaches that, 1A, 2A, 3A, they don't have a choice. But coordinators of both sides, or they have to coach the defensive backs and the running backs and stuff like that. And fortunately at Maryville, we don't have that. I mean, I'm not going to stick my hands into something that, it's just what we talked about. Just like what I've learned. We've got great coaches on defense. They do a great job. I'm not going to go in there and change everything when they're spending all of their time doing that, and I'd be spending a quarter maybe of my time. They're better than me at it, so why not let them do it? And so, I don't have any intentions to go, hey guys, we need to run more cover 3, dadgummit, or anything like that. So,
why are we in man? Why are we still in man?
They happen. I'll ask questions all the time, but I don't ask questions. I don't ask questions to criticize.
Yeah,
I'll ask them to learn. And so I always make that very clear to our coaches. If I'm asking you a question, it's because I want to know and I want to learn. I'm curious. It's not to question what you're doing necessarily. And our guys understand that, and we do such a great job of communicating.
Do you have like one moment where, since you've been head coach, where a fan, just because I just imagine that someone after a game or you're out to dinner with your family or someone stopped you and said something to you about a football game or a call that you made. Is there one or two moments since you've been head coach from a fan that they've said something to you that still sticks with you?
I remember.
It could be positive or negative.
Yeah. Well, certainly we've got great fans. We've got great community support. So, positive, yes, a lot, and I really appreciate that. And like I said, we've got awesome Maryville community. They love Maryville football, and we've had this train rolling for a long time. When it started with, Coach Hammontree, and then Coach Quarles, kind of obviously he, set a lot of records. So people love Maryville football. There's been a lot of positive support. The one negative story I just remember in that first game. I just remember, so I called a timeout late first half, third and forever. We had sacked them. So it was like 3rd and 28. I call a timeout. We're down 21-7 maybe, or 21-14. And so we're hoping there's like maybe 30, 40 seconds left. We have scored a touchdown at the end of the first half at Maryville so many times. I mean, like it's kind of been silly, and people talk about it in Maryville. It's kind of silly how often we do that, but we love to do it because it gives us a huge advantage. Obviously, you go into the half, scoring a touchdown, a lot of momentum. Sometimes you get the ball coming out, so you've stolen 2 in a row, that kind of thing. That's what we do. So I call a timeout, hoping to get the ball back, 3rd and 28, and needless to say, we give up a big play. They go for a touchdown. Now we're down 28-14 or 20. I don't remember what. Anyway, we're down another touchdown going into halftime. Yeah. And I remember distinctly getting hammered for that one in your first game, hearing some things coming on the way into halftime, but it was probably just 1 or 2 people. I'm sure everybody disgruntled, but that's the way it is. That's what happens. Everybody, even now, you can be up 35, and people are going to criticize, and that's just the way it is. So you just got to expect that and get used to it. And I just laughed. I remember just laughing, it being my first game. We come back and won, so it worked out.
It's like 63. Why not 70? Saban had this whole rant about that a few months back about like how much they beat somebody by because they were just, a fan was frustrated about like what we used to beat them by. It's like it's hard enough getting these wins and just gobbling up these wins. Like just be happy with the victories, with everything that goes into it. What are you most excited about this fall, Maryville?
Well, so one of the things that I love about Maryville High School and our football program, Chase, is that every year we have, I call them Maryville guys. I don't know why, but it's just something I started calling it. But it's the guys that they work so hard for 4 years. And maybe, as freshmen, they're they're average or maybe even below average players, but they just keep working their tails off, keep coming to practice, work hard in off season, and then by sophomores, okay, they're getting to play some on JV. Not varsity players at all, but they're getting to play some on JV. Junior year, maybe they're behind a really good senior, so they're still playing some JV, playing a little bit on Friday nights, but not much. By the time they're seniors, though, they've worked hard 3 off seasons in a row. They've changed their bodies physically. They've matured. They know everything about the position that they're playing because they've done it for 3 years for all the same coaches. And they have all-state senior seasons. That has happened so many times at Maryville. And it's rare in society today because, if you're a good player and you're not starting as a sophomore or whatever, you just move. You're going somewhere else, pack your bags and leave. And so, so many times at Maryville, we have juniors and seniors that don't see playing time as freshman, sophomore, maybe even their junior year, and have phenomenal senior years. And some of those guys even sign scholarships to play football in college. That is just so special to me. And I get so excited waiting to see who that's going to be this year. We're going to have some. There's no doubt about it. And had some last year and the year before. And so that's one of my favorite things is the guys that work hard. It's delayed gratification. And the ones who are willing to put in that work and it pays off for them, it's so much fun.
Has the early signing period hurt you at all as a coach? Has it made things more complicated, early signing happening in December versus February?
There's pros and cons to it as well. Yes, sometimes it's tough, but at the same time, it's good not to have to deal with all those colleges coming in December and January trying to flip guys who have already made decisions and dealing with all that stuff. So there's definitely pros and cons to it. All we can do is adjust and do the best we can for our kids. And we work really hard to communicate with college coaches at Maryville, our kids who have the chance to play college football. I meet with every kid at the end of the season. And those rising sophomores and juniors, I'll ask them, do you have intentions of playing in college? And if yes, we'll create a profile for them. Coach Kenny Cobble's our defensive coordinator, one of them. He helps me do a lot of this, and he does a great job. And so we communicate directly with coaches. We do less on social media because I think that's a lot of fluff. But we do a lot more communicating directly with those coaches, especially the ones that recruit our area, trying to find a fit for our kids. I think we work really hard for them, and I like doing that.
Interesting. Do you if you had to explain what happened in the Oakland game, what would you say? If you could, do you think if you have it back, it goes differently? What about that game still kind of sticks with you?
The first thing I think about that game is our kids played their absolute guts out, and I was so proud of that. So the year before we got beat 42-7 or whatever, something like that. They throttled us. It was one of the best teams I think that the state of Tennessee's ever seen. They're just really good. We ran into a buzzsaw, and that happens. And so my goal the whole 21 season was we got to close the gap. We've got to figure out. I don't want to get beat 42-7 again. I want to win. First of all, and so that's what we preached to our kids was. I don't think at the beginning of the 21 season it would have been much different if we'd have played Oakland week 1. But we kept preaching to our kids, and Coach Adam Hendricks, who's co-offensive coordinator for us, coaches our running backs, does a great job. But he's one that kept saying, if we keep doing what we're doing, we can close this gap and give ourselves a chance to win. We wanted to have a chance to win. And, of course, I thought we had a really good game plan going into it. And they didn't lose many guys from the year before, so they were still loaded, and had best running back in the state, super talented wideouts. They were so good. But to be 14-14 at halftime and 17-14 going into the fourth quarter, we had the ball with a chance to take the lead, and just that drive stalled out. And so we actually got 2 first downs on that drive and couldn't find a way to manufacture points, and just had a couple plays not go our way. And because of Oakland, because of how good they are, that made all the difference in the world. And in games like that, that's the way it goes. So I hate that, not that we're into moral victories at Maryville. We want to win every one we play in. But man, I was so proud of that team. And yeah, we got beat 24-14 final score, but we only had the ball 6 times, so it was just one of those games. I don't think the game lasted much longer than 2 hours. It was so fast. Just a very physical, brutal. It was a big boys game, but it was, and I'll remember that because our kids played their guts out. two phenomenal football teams playing each other, and obviously the winner of that game for a while has won state championship.
That's wild. So if I had to, like, I get Coach Cummings on the call, like I get him, I get him in, I get Farragut's coach in here, I get Powell's coach, and I'm like, hey, what about Derek Hunt's offense is the most frustrating to deal with? What do you think their answer is going to be?
Oh, I have no idea. Yeah, I have. That's a good question. It's probably one that I can't even answer. They'll probably talk about our players being really good, and we've been fortunate to have some really good players. I don't know. What I would like for them to say, let me answer that. What I would like for them to say is they're super efficient. They don't turn the ball over. And when you make a mistake, they make you pay. That's our goal. We want to be efficient. We want to be balanced on offense. We're not going to throw the ball 40 times, and we're not going to run the ball 40 times. So we want to be balanced, get the ball in the hands to our really good players, not turn it over. And that's what we've done the past few years. I think, Carson Jones last year, he had, 27 touchdown passes and 1 interception. I mean, just phenomenal, silly, ratio there. So 78% completion percentage. And when we had a chance to make big plays, we made them. So that's our goal. So I hope that's what they'll say. They may say, he's a fluke. So you never know.
Let's hope not. I got your back, Coach. Well, when you look, is there a game that you have circled on the calendar this fall that you're most excited for?
Well, we play such a tough schedule, Chase.
Yeah.
Every one of them so big. We start off with Heritage, which is a county rivalry and a county school. They've been playing forever, Maryville Heritage. And then we go Powell, which is a TV game, big game. Turn around, start in district game with Farragut, and then you got Alcoa. So out of the gate, I mean, you got those games right out of the gate. Also play Knox West, which is a big game. Play Science Hill out of region, which is a big game. We'll finish the year with Bradley Central, which I think for the last 3 years has been a region championship game. So, I mean,
do you want that though? When you do you want that kind of out of the gate, like, let's get tested? You're not a believer in like the cupcakes to get this thing moving. You want to be challenged right away.
No, I mean, so we used to. I mean, like when I played, we opened up with Alcoa.
Yeah,
they're one of the best teams in the state. Year in, year out. So yeah, that's the way you want it. I would rather play a really tough schedule. I would rather play good teams early. If you take a lump along the way, you take a beating around along the way, you're going to learn a lot. We want to be playing our best football in November.
Yeah,
we want to be able to make deep playoff runs. If that means you got to lose 1 or 2 to get there, then so be it. But the goal each year is to maximize the potential of that team. Sometimes that means you can go 15-0 and win a state championship, and that's great. We've done that, but it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes that means you're going to lose a game early, but then you may improve, get better, make a run late, and still have a chance to win 5 games in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think our 21 team reached our potential. I really do. I think our 2020 team reached our potential, even though we got beat 42-7 against Oakland in the Final Four. I think Oakland was that good. Our goal is to reach our full potential. We have not always done that, but I think we've done that a lot at Maryville.
What's the full potential this year?
Yeah, time will tell. That's a great question. Being in spring practice, it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
And the other thing is you don't know what everybody else has either.
True.
And we'll learn that as we get started. But that's what's fun about playing big games early is you learn a lot about yourself. And so when we're like late in the playoffs and we go back and watch games from early in the year, it's incredible how much our team changes even throughout 10 weeks. Our offense, our personnel, schematically, who we are. We learn who we are. We learn who needs to play. Competitions sometimes aren't won in game 1, but they are in game 5. So it's fun, man. That's what makes it fun.
You get a rare day off, Coach. You get a rare day off to go do whatever you want to do. What do you do?
Well, I'm with my kids. I've got 3 kids, 7, 4.
All right, how about this? The kids have babysitters. The kids are all taken care of. You can do whatever you want to do. Do you go fishing? Do you go read a book? Go to the pool? What do you do?
Well, all 3 of those are things I like to do. And I don't do this enough, but I like to get. I love going to mountains. We did that a ton when I was a kid. My family would go up there like on Memorial Day, Labor
Smokies?
Day. Yep, 4th of July. We would go to Townsend and hang out literally the entire day. And so we did it not long ago, about 3 weeks ago. My wife and I took our kids and we went on a short hike and just had a blast, laughed our rear ends off at each other, and we just have my kids are 7, 4, and 1, so you can imagine, we're busy, but that stuff I'll go to the mountains.
Okay, I like that. We'll end on this. So this is if your family had to say like a weirdest quirk that you have and that Maryville fans would be surprised to know about you, what do you think it would be?
Weirdest quirk
that Maryville fans would be like, I would not have guessed that about Coach Hunt.
That's interesting. I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious. To quote Michael Scott from The Office, so maybe that's it. Some
ghost hunter. If the whole Maryville thing doesn't work out, you can just get into ghost hunting, paranormal activity.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but not necessarily with ghosts. But I'm a pretty routine oriented person, so I don't like to get out of those, and probably need to work on that some. To be honest,
I'm dying to meet an elite coach who doesn't have a great routine. Like I've talked to so many. None of them have been like, I just wake up and we'll see what the day has in front of me.
Forget coach. That's just an elite person in general. I hope there's a lot of super successful people that they're good because they know who they are and what they do, and it's the same almost every day. So
it's the freedom of structure. I think it's something that scares a lot of people, but I believe in the freedom of structure. That I'm wired the same way. We have a lot to get done, Coach. Different things, but a lot to get done.
Absolutely.
Well, how do the good folks that are around the Knoxville area tuning in today, how do they support the Maryville football program?
How do they support us? Just come watch our kids play. Like, high school football is such a great avenue for young men. And we can't lose this. We cannot lose high school football. And I worry about, our culture and our society sometimes, getting rid of some things that are really good for our kids. And I hope high school football doesn't get on that list anywhere in the near future. So supporting high school football in this area is a great, great, great thing for our young men. And so let's just keep doing it.
I hope so too. I mean, this past fall was my first full, because 2020 I throw out the window and what the experience was like there. But growing up Friday Night Lights in Parkview with what we grew up with, Frank Core and everything, and I grew up with. I was spoiled, kind of like Parkview's kind of like a Maryville in Gwinnett County, but it's definitely in my blood, and I love it on Friday nights. I love in the fall circling which games I'm going to go to and how I'm gonna book my fall schedule here in Knoxville. So I think Maryville Powell is going to be on my list this fall. I watched it on TV last year. I want to see it in person this year.
Why not?
Is it in Maryville or Powell this year?
It's at Powell this year.
Okay.
And
what's your biggest home game?
Yeah.
What's your biggest home game?
We'll play Alcoa at home this year, and I'd say it has to be Alcoa, our biggest home game for sure. Yeah,
I'll be there for Alcoa. For Alcoa, and we'll talk in person, Coach. We'll talk in person, and it'll probably be a good one. I think that'll be good. Derek Hunt, thank you so much for making the time. This was great. I greatly appreciate it. Go support the Maryville football program and Friday Night Lights in the East Tennessee and just Tennessee across the board, because we're very pro Friday Night Lights on this podcast. So, Derek, thank you so much. Have a good day. Spring practice well underway, and I'll talk to you again soon.
Hey, thank you so much. Look forward to it.